Hello and welcome. Today, I'm joined by Juraj Cvik, the co-founder and CEO of Trama, a legal tech that is reimagining how global brands handle trademark registration. Based in Bratislava, Juraj has scaled Trama to handle complex brand protection across 190 countries, moving from serving solo entrepreneurs to managing massive enterprise portfolios. We are going to dive into early days of their tech, how they are transitioning from B2C model to empowering other law firms, and why Uri chose to scale with paid media before relying on referrals. Uri, welcome to the Growth Switch.
Hi, Alex. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Our pleasure to have you. Now, you originally joined the company 6 months after it was founded, and you mentioned that it was one of the coolest legal startups you've seen. What was the initial drive and excitement that you had to join the company?
A little bit of context before I dive into the question. Like trademark registration used to be, and partially, at least partially, still is perceived as something very complex, very expensive. Basically, leaving this in the domain of big brands, preventing smaller brands from playing the same game, protecting their brands. Trama was based on a mission, and we have followed this mission of making sure that every brand can be protected in a simple, fast, affordable way. And one of the initial steps in brand protection and trademark registration in particular is trademark assessment. Eligibility criteria and similarity search is conducted before the trademark application is filed, and that basically makes sure that the applicant doesn't waste time and money trying to register something that just cannot be registered. And the coolest thing that the guys initially from Trama told me about and approached me with was that they have developed this traffic light system that's fully automated. Clients, in this sense, small business owner, just comes to the website, runs a quick search, inputting the name of the company, brief description of what they do, and they instantly get either green light, okay, it's good to go, you can register this, red light, no, you don't want to do this, or orange, meaning some obstacles can be there, but they probably can be overcome. Now, in almost any other service or any other provider would charge anything between 150 to 1500 for this clearance search. So having this system in place, which will be automated and free of charge, could be a game changer. And this was the idea that I was approached with and dragged into Trama that, okay, we've got this cool system. We just need to help spread the word out.
What were the first challenges once you joined the team? What was the big roadblock that you were working to solve once you joined the team?
Well, it doesn't take long, and this idyllic scenario turned all to shreds. And we soon, maybe after 3 weeks of product testing, learned that the system is not really good enough, that the decision-making process and the judgment call made by the lawyer about eligibility criteria and similarity screening are far more complex that can then input into an automated model. And so basically we were forced to scrap the whole idea of a traffic light system. But it gave us something else. It gave us something that, okay, if this is a very complex process, we still want to provide this process to the startups, entrepreneurs, small businesses. We want to start the journey this way. And if it can't be automated, okay, let it just make the work of the lawyer doing the assessment as easy as it can be, reducing this entry barrier for smaller players.
I think right now, probably in the scene of legal tech as well, there are two camps of thought. So the one camp is going back to the basics and being very efficient about that. The second camp is trying to out AI sometimes problems. And of course, as the technology is improving, but it has its challenges, sometimes it creates different risks. So when you were making that adjustments in the early days, what school of thought do you think you're leaning towards?
Now, all this was before the AI era. We might have acted differently in the AI age. But it's very tricky, especially in the AI age, to make the judgment because obviously you have the FOMO, fear of missing out, that, okay, this probably can be done somehow, and we just need to be the first one to do that. And at the same time, it's so easy to reject that idea. I just found one case that it's not good enough. And that's why I need to stick with the traditional way of doing it. And it's about finding the right balance in there. And we've been doing it before the AI age and even the AI age. That we are trying to find that carefully crafted balance, basically relying on technology and AI to automate what can be automated, but leaving that human lawyer judgment above it. And even when it comes to pushing the boundary of where the technology can really help, we are trying to do it in a very controlled environment, meaning that unless we are 100% sure that this type of a call can be automated or done by AI, we just run it in parallel and evaluate over time to make sure that we are not missing out on anything, we are not compromising the client experience.
You mentioned that you started doing this before AI became mainstream. How were you going about collecting that customer feedback in the early days to see if there are any friction, what processes, like you mentioned, can be automated, which processes should always have human in the loop? What was your process for gathering that feedback and making the decisions?
It probably comes down to the very structure of the founders team of Trama, and it dilutes down to the whole company as to how we are structured. We have the legal arm, which is represented by Igor, the original founder of Trama. And basically, Igor has spent all of his or most of his professional life in IP protection. He understands trademarks, he knows the rules. We have the tech side, which understands the processes and what can be automated. And we also have the customer centric side. Okay, we need to treat customers, we need to simplify this to the customer in order to give them that experience we strive for. And it's been the balance between these three elements that has allowed us to find the opportunities and to push the boundary forward.
You mentioned when we were talking earlier, and you mentioned right now the customer experience and how it is important to create those 5-star customer experiences. With what the company is doing right now, what do you see as the 5-star experience that customers are delighted by?
To some extent, there are other cases, but it's really easy for us to give a client a 5-star experience because they've had a terrible experience before. And just by doing our job properly gives them that sense of absolute delight. And there are obviously those more demanding customers who want more than perfection. But ultimately, it really falls down to the three basic tenets: simple, fast, affordable. People don't really, or our clients do not necessarily want to spend hours and thousands on getting their trademark registered, having brand protected. They do not necessarily want to understand fully. They just need to find a partner who can they really trust and rely on. And we are trying to be that partner from basically the initial moment when they come to us, and we start with a free life check where they get high quality advice that this is what you can do with your brand. These are the risks. This is our recommendation.
Simple, fast, affordable. Usually in that combination, the common suggestions often that you can pick 2 but not 3. And you're saying that actually having all 3 is possible in the model that you're operating.
To be honest, I think they are really reinforcing each other. I wouldn't think of them as acting in contradictory ways. Like if we simplify a process, internal process, it also simplifies the process for the clients, and it also pushes down the cost. So it ultimately becomes simple, fast, because we are more streamlined and we are more affordable.
Where does the importance of speed sits for you? Because you mentioned earlier that normally this is something that would be quite a lengthy process for many of the clients otherwise. And right now with AI today, we also see probably the other end of the spectrum when something can be done very quickly, but there are big risks associated with it. And we've seen recently the bankruptcy case that hallucinated cases, and obviously the impact of that could be quite significant. So when you think about delivering with speed, but at the same time managing the risk and being very high accuracy, what's the internal process for the guardrails there for you?
We probably value the quality more than the speed. Like we would never sacrifice the client experience and the legal advice that we give on behalf of just the speed. it would be so easy for us to give you the initial screening result within 30 seconds, or it wouldn't be accurate. So that's why we are trying to push it down in terms of the time we need, but putting quality and accuracy at a high level.
You've been growing the team since before AI to everything that's happening right now. When it comes to growing the team itself behind the product, behind the company, what's been the biggest maybe challenges that you had to overcome in the last few years?
In terms of just growing the team, I would still say that it's getting the tech team and the legal team to work together. Like they both come from different worlds, and they have their expectations is one can find real intricacies and nuances in the process, and the tech team on the other hand, they prefer clear process, deterministic way, that this is what can be done. Like really great things happen when these two teams collaborate, but it's very difficult to get them to collaborate. And probably our key to success was trying to bridge it from both ends, giving the legal team a bit of insight into the product and the tech team and how things operate. That way they can adjust their expectations, and also raising the, let's call it, legal knowledge or the knowledge of the process among the members of the tech team. And that allows us to reduce that gap and ensure collaboration.
Do you think what happened basically within the team, that the challenge of getting the two teams within the company on the same page, also telegraphs what's happening in the world in general? Because there are big law firm and there are companies that developing AI solutions for the law firm right now, and there's quite a gap between the two at the moment. And in terms of the implementation for the mass market, they still have some way to go. So do you think getting that collaboration, basically what you went through, it's exactly what we will see in the marketplace play out in the next few years?
I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so, because from my perspective, and I might be wrong, but from my perspective, it's not really about the technical side of things and being the best in terms of the implementation. I don't think the end clients really care about that. They do not need to see what's under the hood. They just need to see the result. And the results depends on the collaboration on bridging of both of these aspects.
That's a very good point in the context of professional services, because as professionals, we often tend to over communicate the process, but not necessarily the outcome. And you're saying that working together towards that outcome is more important.
Be my guess. That would be my guess. And when it comes to other field of business, to be very blunt about this, the legal perspective on trademark registration would really be just highlighting all potential risks that it can go wrong, and fully informing the client. The tech perspective would be just get it streamlined, get it into one process. And this is where the client-centric perspective comes into place. That, okay, we need to find a balance between the expectations of the client, the needs of the proper legal work, proper legal assessments, and the streamlined process. And ultimately, most of our clients would be absolutely thrilled if we just told them, just leave it to us, we've got you. We do not need to use AI buzzwords. We do not need to tell them what's really under the hood. They just want to get it done and rely on us. And this is where we are trying to get to offer that kind of experience.
And doing that across 190 countries is no small feat. What was your process for expansion when you joined in to build trusts across different markets, when top of mind risks and other concerns are very, very different? So how did you approach that global expansion that you went through?
Well, I'm probably not going to say anything groundbreaking. You have the 80/20 rule, and 80% of trademark applications, registration, and ultimately brand protection needs of clients are met with 20% of countries. So we started by tackling the biggest jurisdictions. Well, we operate from the EU, so this is basically our home market. UK is very close. We have direct coverage in the UK. We have direct coverage in the US. And then we gradually started to expand Canada, Australia, New Zealand. And then we hit sort of a ceiling where we could not expand our internal resources, internal team within other jurisdictions. And we knew that it's that local knowledge that really enhances the customer experience and quality of the work. So we started forging partnerships, and China is a very good example. There is a huge demand for brand protection services in China, but there are very few companies who can really do it properly. And there are even fewer who can do it from the outside of China. So we really looked hard into finding a reliable partner in China who we could trust to handle our clients' affairs. And so this was the approach that we took. And it's really about managing this network of local partners into one experience under one roof.
Effectively collaboration over competition, finding the win-win situation for having somebody locally and then improving the global product for the whole network.
Yeah. And this is something that is really appreciated by our clients, that they want to deal with one person, don't necessarily need to, or they are fully informed that we work with local partners, but they don't really put it to such a high degree. And they want that unified experience, which we bring to them. And on the back end, we handle the complex work of managing this network. It's been also very exciting because we have grown alongside some of our early days clients, meaning that they started as startups and they started with the EU trademark, protecting their brand in one jurisdiction. A few years later, they expanded into US, UK. We could guard them. Then they came to us, okay, we want to go global. What can you offer? So that also pushed us to really speed up this building of a global network.
Was that also part of the reason why you decided to adjust the main customer profile that you were working with from more of a smaller company towards the larger firms, or was there a different rationale of how you're thinking about the best customers that you want to serve?
Personally, I'm still very passionate about helping the little guy, like leveling the playing field and not leaving brand protection to the big brands. Whenever we have a chance to act on behalf of a smaller client who is a victim of trademark bullying, then I'm really happy that we are able to help them. But yes, it is also very exciting to see that these little guys actually grow over time and they want to rely on Trama because they've had a good experience and they continue to have a good experience.
Outside of those cases where you're able to make a lot of difference to the small guy and help them, what is the ideal company for you to work today that you're focusing on when you're thinking about maybe new features or any other future updates that you're going through?
In terms of updates, I would still take it on an emotional level, that I would take a founder of any company, regardless of the size, who is passionate about their brand, who really sees the value in their brand and is willing to protect it. And whether it's a small country, it's a small company within one country, a local coffee shop, and well, they are passionate. And if there is anyone opening a similar store, they want to know about it, they want to act on it, then that is my ideal client. But yes, this more naturally comes with a large size of the company. And especially in the global context, these multinational companies, slightly bigger enterprises who can understand the monetary value of their brands slightly better than first-time entrepreneurs.
How did you go about building those relationships with both the smaller companies that are passionate about their brand and also the enterprises as you were expanding across the globe?
You mean in terms of basically lead generation or just
Exactly. What was the main driver of the growth in the early days?
in the early days? Well, obviously we have relied on our personal networks and friends and family. This kind of lead acquisition was definitely there. But very early, we were heavily reliant on performance marketing. Basically, trademark registration is still a niche of a niche. Less than 1% of companies register their trademark, even though we believe that this number should be at 99%. But because of this niche of a niche thing, it's very difficult to basically carpet bombing marketing to get the word out, because we would end up just boiling the ocean and never getting the return that we want. So we had to be very careful about where and who we approach. And the easiest way for us was to focus on the point of sale, meaning that the clients, the prospective clients knew that they need a trademark and they were just looking for the best provider. And this is where performance marketing fits perfectly in the early days, 90%, maybe even more than 90% of our leads came from performance marketing, Google Ads in particular.
So you were capturing somebody that already knew that they had a problem, they already wanted to find a solution, and you're capturing them through advertising. I think for our audience, it would be very helpful to know how you were thinking about the financial aspect of that, what type of returns you were expecting in the early days, and maybe how that has changed over the years.
In the early days, we were more trying to prove the concept, and we took it as an investment, at least in the initial months. I'm quite happy to burn some money just to find the result, just to find the fit. And advertising is one thing, but getting more clients to our side meant that we were increasing our reputation, our trust, and we're also gathering very valuable feedback from the early clients, which allowed us to improve the service. So we really took it as an investment that, okay, we need more clients to improve. And with that improvement, we can then revisit the equation and do this in circles, continually improve until we get that product market fit and we can really scale it efficiently. So in the initial months, yes, we were burning money with advertising, but this changed within 1 year, I guess, and we were aiming for break even. And after 2 years, we were profitable with performance marketing.
I think that's a very helpful insight because for the firms that maybe historically always done network and referrals only, they see advertisement as something that needs to be profitable from day one, or it doesn't work, in their opinion. And to your point, that's just not the case. There is definitely a timeline when you are testing things, you're finding how the channel works, maybe you're gathering additional feedback if it is a new product or service that you're offering. And then if you keep at it, you can keep iterating and eventually go through the break even, and then it becomes profitable. So you've seen firsthand that that's a journey, and there's also a timeline attached to it.
Yes, 100%. And I'm not trying to say that this approach is applicable to every single firm. It worked for us. And the main reason why it worked for us, because we were always aiming for a bigger volume. And if the end goal of the company is to have 10 clients and that's okay for them, then there are probably other more efficient ways, but we knew we needed that volume, that we wanted to get that volume. And for that, we needed like a perfect service. And you can get only so far with personal referrals. So this was really the investment to speed things up, to get that initial mass of clients to allow us to grow.
It basically became an accelerator of sorts that just got your conversations faster, and then you could iterate on the whole sales process on the product as well because of that.
100%, 100%. And as I said, it boosted our credibility, gave us reviews, extremely important in the context of legal services, that you do not want to just trust anyone. You want to trust somebody who other people trust. So that was extremely valuable. And probably the most valuable aspect was that once we got these clients and they got a really good experience with us, they didn't look around, they didn't go anywhere else. And with entrepreneurs in particular, it's very interesting to see that, okay, even if the initial idea fails or if it's a moderate success, they are very likely to start a new business, expand the brand, set up a new brand. And we were getting repeated orders from these clients coming back to us. Some of them came back in 2 weeks, some of them came back in 2 years, but they came back. So in addition to this initial mass of clients that allowed us to perfect the product, perfect the service, it also gave us a really solid base of clients who are sticking with us. And when we are thinking about the lifetime value of the client in this regard, I will probably revisit the initial statement that yes, even in the initial months, we were actually break even or profitable when it came to performance marketing.
It just took longer to catch up with that value, but effectively the relationship generated were significant. I think something that you just said that's also worth maybe double clicking on is that there is a sales adage that every sales conversation should have one of the two outcomes. You either make a sale or you learn something that helps you improve the product. And that initial feedback for you probably was not accidental, because there are a lot of lawyers and other professionals that have a lot of data they could be analyzing to improve their services or how they get a new clients, but they're not using it effectively, not in terms of maybe collecting feedback and testimonials and reviews, or even looking at the intake process or the client experience. What would be maybe 3 items that you would recommend for a company to maximize the information they already have through those conversations in a way that they can have a process to extract those insights?
There's a definite number one. There's nothing for a long time, and there are multiple things afterwards. And the definite number one thing for me is just talk to the client. In the early days, I was basically in contact with every client, or one of the co-founders was in contact with every client that we had. So we knew why they came to us, what was their experience, even tried to sense what we could improve. Most of the improvements that we've made were really based on a hunch, based on these interviews. It wasn't hard data. It wasn't a client telling us that, okay, you need to do that. It wasn't a dissatisfied client. If you did this, then I would have stayed with you. It was really just a sense that, okay, this probably sounds like a hindrance. Maybe we can try to do something about it. And with these hypotheses, we engaged in a lot of experimenting. We did myriads of A/B testing on our web, since we are digital first service, and then collected the hard data to either support it or reject it or learn something else.
I think having those founder-led conversations and extracting that is interesting. And basically, you're saying that the customers, if you ask them directly, sometimes they cannot tell you, like, we like this or we don't like this. So you need to trust your intuition sometimes. I think in the Amazon, they had a saying that if there's anecdotal evidence and there is a data, you should rely on anecdotal evidence, because that might be more informative. And that sounds like it was your experience as well.
Yes, absolutely. One of the main theses in marketing is that customers don't know what they want. They need to be shown what they want. And the only way to understand what they really want is to rely on intuition, anecdotal evidence. And ultimately, there are myriads of examples of companies that are relying on our Netflix is definitely one of them. They just used our data to perfect the product, and they're doing a fantastic job. But in our case, when we were building something new and different, I believe that it was the right call to try to rely on that intuition and understanding of our clients.
Which makes me wonder, and I'm curious if for the marketing aspect, especially when it came to the Google Ads and things of that nature, if you use somebody externally or part of the team, because one of the big disconnects I see between firms that are successful with advertisement and not is how well whoever is doing the marketing is talking to the founder or managing partner or somebody that will have those intuitions. Because if there is a disconnect, then the way the messaging comes across to the customer might be off, and then it's not quite the right people or with the right problem coming to the company, and the numbers might look good, but then that doesn't convert into the business outcome that everybody is hoping for. And unless the two, the marketing and the founder, are talking to each other, that cannot be solved, because the two definitely need to be in close contact. So for you, I'm guessing you had a very close oversight on the marketing side, and you were able to take advantage of that. But I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on that.
I couldn't agree with you more. In my prior career, I've seen it in so many examples that marketing department is just viewed as a cost. And okay, you've got your budget, do your magic. I don't really care what you find out. I'm running the business. And marketing, from obviously I'm biased because I come from marketing background. But from my perspective, marketing is one of the most crucial aspects of the organization that brings in the client's insights, understanding, and if a company is able to translate that into the product or service, they have basically won. And in our case, yes, we probably have one of the weirder structures in terms of the founders level, that it's not often that a chief marketing officer would be co-founder. And this was our case. So I couldn't agree more.
And that probably actually gave you almost like a hidden advantage in that sense as well, that you were able to operate and execute that expansion across 190 countries faster because of that understanding at the founder level.
Yes. And so that I don't just focus the marketing department, it was also the like very open communication between these key three functions that we've got: the legal talking to tech, talking to marketing, and it was this dynamic that really allowed us to understand the best options, provide the best experience.
If we fast forward to the present day and the way you are thinking about the other plans that you have for 2026, when it comes to future growth, whether it's bigger companies or any other goals that you've set for yourselves, which marketing channels, as the whole communication between the team that you just mentioned, takes the top of your priority as something that you've seen very effective and you're focusing on?
I have to say that over the last few years, we have dialed down on performance marketing. And most of our leads come from either our existing clients or referrals from our existing clients. So the dynamics has shifted a little bit, and ensuring that our clients have the 5-star experience is really what drives our growth these days. It's a solid growth that can possibly go wrong if we don't manage to keep up with the demands of our clients, with the demands of a growing number of clients. So it may not sound like a lead generation technique, but the main focus for us right now is really just to making sure that we keep on maximizing the client delights.
I think at the surface level, a big myth that I just want to shed light on is that referrals and word of mouth is seen as something passive. You just do the work and then the referrals happen. But what you're describing is a much more active role into making sure they have a great experience, communicating that, possibly, please tell me there are other communications as well, inviting them to make the referrals, which is a lot more active. And then the referrals become a channel as well that needs to be managed.
To some extent, I have to say there are these somewhat weird or counterintuitive examples. For example, we had a case where we uncovered a new trademark application that was filed by a counterparty that was infringing on our existing client's rights. So we contacted the client, it gets get the solution together, opposed the new application, and the counterparty 2 months later came to us and told us that, okay, you were absolutely right for stopping me, and having had this experience on the other side, I really want to have you on my side this time that I'm about to rebrand. So can we please work together? And it's a very weird lead generation channel, but we've seen it happen on several occasions, and that is something that I believe just reinforces that aspect that, okay, if we just do our work right, maximize the client delight, then good things happen. And obviously, we do also pursue some active options of maximizing this channel. And we are talking probably about client testimonials. We have stories of our clients section, which is a very nice way to keep in touch with the clients, put them on a pedestal a little bit, basically write a story about them, about how cool their brand is. And it means that we are shedding a bit more light on them, but at the same time also highlighting our competence.
Do you think that's more important than ever in the age when, with the AI, it's easier than ever to produce content, and a lot of that is not very good? So to highlight those, to celebrate clients, to celebrate the results that you're getting them, it's more important than ever to create that content so that it's not just, AI produced slob that a lot of companies are putting on social media and on their website, but it's actually real stories being documented and displayed there for somebody that might be interested in a product or service.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with this. And recently I came across an opinion that in the future, in the AI-led future, most of the sales conversations will be face-to-face. in a physical person, because like people will not be able to tell what's an online environment, what's written by the AI, what's written by the person, and that we have this ingrained attitude that we trust a human being. So if we meet in a face-to-face setting, then that opens up the door. And this is somewhere in between that, okay, we try to establish that human relationship with the clients and put that human-centered aspect to the
I
life.
think that's a very interesting prediction. I think door-to-door sales in the B2B context is probably making a comeback for the exact reason that you're describing. That if you actually have a human come into your office, it's very different than a lot of cold email and other spam that people are used to seeing and used to ignoring nowadays. So it just becomes very different relationship.
Yeah.
You're right. With everything going on in the company and all the success you had, so far, what's the one thing that you're thinking about that's maybe keeping you up at night this year as a big goal or a challenge that you're working through?
One big goal and challenge for us that is still largely unresolved is we have basically built up a very successful B2C service. We have over 30,000 brands under our management. We are protecting thousands of entrepreneurs, companies. We are growing in this side of business. But by doing so, we have developed so much internal tooling that somehow feels that its potential is not fully used because it's used just by one company. And we know that human relationships are absolutely crucial in the context of legal services. And even though we've had this conversation with some of our clients, that even though they consider us better option in terms of IP protection, they still stick with a different law firm, different agency, because they have that human relationship, and the agency handles also corporate agenda for them. And there is a ceiling for us how many direct clients we can have. And I believe that it's our mission of making sure that every brand can be protected doesn't necessarily mean that Trama needs to be the legal representative for every single client. And one other option to achieve that is to empower others, other law firms, other IP professionals to be basically as efficient as we are, as customer friendly as we are. And this is a stream that we are very eager to follow.
I think that's a very cool mission. One of the trends we will probably start seeing, as I mentioned earlier, the trend is that the middle is disappearing. There are either big enterprises or there are lots of smaller companies. And I think with smaller companies, a lot more will need your services. And like you say, if there is a limit to how many clients you can work with, then empowering other firms and empowering the right type of client getting that advice is a very cool mission that resonates, I think, with where the market is going. So that definitely makes sense. You're right. Where can our audience learn more about the work that you do and the Trama does online?
It's as simple as clicking traumatm.com.
Perfect. And we will make sure to include links as well, so they're just one click away.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Alex, the pleasure was mine. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.